This is Sam Shihab, and with me,
Brian Burke.
And today we are going to talk about requests for expedited applications. It's a very hot topic. And before we do that, I was asked to explain to everybody what we do, who we are. We are immigration lawyers. Sam Shihab and Associates have been in practice for over a decade. Between Brian and myself, we've been practicing immigration law over 35 years. Yeah. And we are pleased to introduce our weekly show. So today, expedited applications. Why do you think this is very important, Brian?
Because everything is so slow right now. The number one things I'm hearing about that are slow right now are one, EADs, advanced paroles, and two, the I-485 processes themselves. And everybody out there is thinking, is there something I can do to move this faster?
And more importantly, we are going to share with you tips on how to win an application for expedited request.
Yeah.
And give you some secrets that we do that makes your case polished and increase your chance of success. Without further, and also we're going to be talking about something else. We're going to talk about
September Visa Bulletin.
September Visa Bulletin. Current events. So every week we're going to be bringing to you a 2 or 3 minute session about what really happened last week, something that we'd like to add to the show so you can get updated on critical and current immigration issues. So anything that's happened last week, we're going to bring it up and talk about it for a few minutes as well. Mm-hmm. But without further delay, request for expedited processing.
5 criteria, really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure I have holding up the right number of fingers.
5 ways to get expedited processing.
5 ways to get expedited processing.
Okay.
Right from the government policy. The big headlines are severe financial loss to accompany your person, emergencies or humanitarian reasons, a request from a nonprofit organization whose request is in the quote-unquote furtherance of the cultural or social interest of the United States, U.S. government interest, or clear USCIS error. And
so that sounds like fancy talk to me. Let's get to the bottom line.
Go deep.
We can go to the bottom line. Expedited request is something that is in the law built into the process? Is it something that we do a filing fee? How does it
built
work?
In the government policy itself. It's, USCIS takes in cases and they generally process them on a first in, first out basis. And, I guess that's not regulated. It's not, and so they get to decide what order they take things. If you give them a compelling reason, they'll move your case to the front of the line, which is something that's surely attractive to a lot of people. But we'll talk about the challenges of, can you really get there?
Okay, sounds wonderful. And if expedited processing is not available, what do you do?
There's other things you can touch upon. There's depends on really how long your case has been in process, but we've talked about things like, there's premium processing available for certain cases. There's contacting your congressperson. I can try litigation. And we'll touch on those things a little bit because, those things are fun and interesting to talk about, but there's some challenges associated with those things as well.
And each one really deserves its own day with to discuss probably. One of the things when we start doing this weekly presentation is we wanted to give in-depth information. There's a lot of great information out there that say, how I'm going to give you a summary of everything in 20 minutes or 20 seconds. And I guess we live in a world that is impatient and people want information quickly. Well, good information takes time to develop. So the first criteria.
Yeah. So this is honestly it's the first criteria on USCIS list, and it's the one that sounds most attractive to a lot of people. It's severe financial loss. And, I can think of a lot of people who are going to say a severe financial loss associated with, common slow-moving cases right now. EADs, severe financial loss. If I'm not going to have a job, I'm going to lose my EAD. That's a potential major one. And think of all the opportunities I'm going to miss out on if I don't have a green card. Severe financial loss sounds like a win, right? Not so much.
Well, it's very subjective.
Yeah.
And what is severe for one person is not severe for the other. And because this is a policy, it's extremely broad. And what is, in your opinion, serious and severe? I get a lot of people saying,
it's going to screw over my entire life if I don't get this.
My kids are going to college. If I don't get this, this will happen. And it's going to cost me $20,000 more. So is 20,000? Is there a number?
No, because I mean, I've given that number. Well, Sam, it's not that number necessarily, because I've definitely given that number before, and no expedite request approved. And I thought it was a compelling case.
And it's a moving target.
Yeah.
When USCIS have a lot of expedite requests, they are less sensitive to your need and your urgency. It becomes less urgent if everybody has an emergency.
Yeah. If everybody is out there putting in expedite requests, you sure as heck better do something absolutely spectacular to put yourself head and shoulders above them in terms of your urgency. Yeah.
But what's a good severe financial loss?
Well, you know what? USCIS gives an example. They say, from a company's perspective, we're going to lose a contract if we don't have this case approved. Is their classic one, a major client, a major contract like that. So, and that's not a terrible case. It's an argument I've made in expedite request before. It's our companies. This gal is critical to the heart of our business, what we do. If this request is not approved, it's gonna hurt our business. I mean, they also speak, they give us the doctor's office scenario, right? If a doctor is working and needs employment authorization to be approved, they actually say in their criteria, loss of a job is not enough for us to grant it, right?
But company folding is.
Folding
They
is.
did mention that.
Yeah, it's not just your job; it's everybody else's job underneath you.
So this guy has we have a contract. If we cannot fulfill this contract, there is a penalty of X amount of dollars. If we are subject to this penalty, we are going to not be able to survive and get evidence. We're going to talk about evidence later, but those kind of things.
Yeah. So so the big takeaways for severe financial loss is, I mean, whenever I talk about this with somebody, big numbers are good. The bigger, the better. Think of tens of thousands of dollars, rather than hundreds or thousands. And your loss of a job alone is not enough to get you there. That's the real sad one for that one, because especially with the H4 EADs right now, it's the processing times that really get us. That's 6 months. They allow you to file 6 months out for an EAD, and it takes 11 to 14 months to get an H4 EAD approval. Absolutely crazy.
And one of the requirements is that the benefit you've requested is timely filed.
Yeah.
So if you filed your application late and now you're asking for expedite, or there was a RFE and you responded to it late, also that can have a negative consequence. So those things, in fact, can negatively affect the consideration.
Yeah.
Now, what about responding to an RFE late?
That's on their list. One of the things is that we're not going to be sympathetic if you weren't timely in responding to your RFE.
So let's assume they give you 80 days to respond to an RFE, and you responded on the 75th day, not on the 7th day. Would that negatively affect the consideration?
It depends on the RFE they give you. I don't think it's impossible. But if they gave you a complex RFE where it reasonably took you, that amount of time to get the information, I would, that's as an attorney, those are the things I think about. But the faster the better, obviously.
Okay, sounds good. So severe financial loss is an important one, but don't think $10,000 or $15,000 in loss is going to do it. It's going to be a lot bigger, and also has to be coupled by an urgent action will result into mitigating USCIS. You have to create a nexus, a connection between
something more important than yourself, honestly,
Yes.
Yeah.
And a connection between the USCIS approving the request and the mitigation of the severe financial loss.
Yeah.
So there has to be a nexus between the two. You have to show that.
Not just that you're important in your job, that you're so important that other bad things will domino down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, sounds good. So that's the first criteria. What would be the second criteria?
Well, that would be emergencies and humanitarian reasons.
Okay.
So the USCIS classic example is, gravely ill, need to travel abroad to get medical treatment in a short period of time. And the unexample is, you need to go on vacation is not really
So why did they combine the word emergency? I guess it's humanitarian to deal with emergencies.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of group them together. I think the classic example is, I have a relative that has passed away overseas, and they need me there, and I don't have any sort of travel documents right now. Give me a quick one,
Yeah, I've had a sad situation that I have discussed with a client recently, where you mentioned an expedited travel document, and it's treated a little bit different. You have to call USCIS, and you have to set up an appointment to file your application at the local office with the fee and the pictures, and then you go there for an interview, and you hope to be able to present evidence to show the need for an expedited travel, and then you're issued a travel document. And the person had a death certificate of I think his father-in-law, and it was denied, sadly. And the reason was denied was very questionable. It had to do with whether or not there is an unlawful presence problem with the case, and because of that, it was very disappointing for the client. So be aware that sometimes these decisions are very subjective.
Yeah.
And based on the explanation that I've had with this gentleman, the experience was very negative. The interaction was not very healthy at the USCIS office. This officer was
you're
not
going down to the
sympathetic.
local USCIS office and taking some time out of their day. So I mean, you got to approach them.
Well, it's sometimes you get somebody who is not exactly in the right mood. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful officers that we deal with that are very empathetic and sympathetic and understanding, and they are service oriented. And then just not many, but some of them are not. And unfortunately, is those who are not don't survive. I mean, I don't see them; they disappear. They get sacked because obviously a lot of complaints about them. But when you come across one of those, you're going to have to deal with it. Yeah. So
with kindness.
Yes, but nonprofit organizations is the third one.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, why nonprofit organization gets a special treatment, but nonprofit organization is treated special. Their request has to be in furtherance of a cultural and social interest of the United States. So if there is a request by a nonprofit that the request is in furtherance of the social or what's the other one? Social or cultural interest of the United States, whatever those words may be, then you get to expedite. And actually, they are the only organization that's allowed to expedite, even if there is a premium processing available. And that doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of nonprofits that are not exactly the kind of organization that are incredibly on the social track, on the positive social track.
Think of charity, but I like the nonprofit organization criteria because there are more nonprofit organizations out there than you think. Think of hospital. I mean, huge employers are like hospitals and charities.
So that's an excellent point. So, for example, if you're a doctor working for a hospital, most hospitals are nonprofit.
Yeah.
This hospital can write a letter and say, we are a nonprofit, and but what is the social or cultural component?
They give this wacky example of an organization broadcasting in regional areas to promote democratic interests. So
it blows me away. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I don't understand that one being a social interest, but I think there's a super compelling argument, especially say in the middle for those medical folks in the middle of a pandemic. I'd say anybody providing services to a hospital, you'd say helping them achieve their organizational goals in the middle of a pandemic. I like that one.
It serves social interest. I mean, doctors, by definition, they serve social interest, right?
It's healthy communities.
Whoever wrote this policy, I'm sure they're very good at writing, but it's not a perfect document. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
it has issues.
I mean, I just can't think of many people that are involved in broadcasting to promote democratic interests. I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
the local U.S. Radio station from whatever region of the world you're in.
Yeah. What about the one that talks about the fiduciary duties, the confidentiality, breach of confidentiality that they're worried about? Which one was that?
That had to relate to government interest, I think. Yeah, government interest. That's the next criteria.
Okay, that blows me away.
So U.S. government interest is, we're talking about all the criteria.
It doesn't make any sense. Go ahead.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. I gotta touch. We said there's going to be 5 criteria, and darn it, Sam, we're going to touch on the 5. There's U.S. government interests. I mean, ultimately, if you are closely associated with the U.S. government, you have an agency that's willing to go to bat for you. That would probably be the ideal scenario. But I'm coming back again to the scenario of doctors in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic or any other pandemic, Sam. I'd say that's something in the U.S. government interest is getting your medical professionals, anybody in that realm, anybody remotely related to that, keep on working in the United States. Kind of compelling in my book.
Okay, I agree. Also, there is a criteria for expedited appeals. We're probably not going to talk about that today, but an appeal can also be expedited, an administrative appeal.
Well, yeah, we've talked. I mean, there's 1,001 scenarios where you're going to lose some rights if you don't get a quick decision on that appeal. You're going to run out of options, right?
So what is an expedited request not appropriate? When is it not appropriate?
Well, when premium processing is available, generally.
2 is if you're really calling because there's a delay in processing.
Yeah.
A delay, the case was supposed to have been approved 60 days ago because of whatever reason, USCIS is behind. I'd like to file an expedited request to get my case approved.
Yeah.
That's a denial because you just don't fit any of the criteria.
Yeah. In those scenarios, that's when we talk about, well, 1, letting USCIS know they're out of processing time, contacting the ombudsman or contacting a congressperson. And we'll talk briefly about those, I think, a little bit later on.
And then the last one, did we talk about clear USCIS error?
Clear USCIS error. Sam, how easy is it to get USCIS to admit their errors?
Impossible.
Yeah.
And, like the examples we talk about is wrong I-94 date, wrong spellings on EAD cards.
Yeah.
It takes forever.
Yeah.
It takes, and when they issue it again,
50-50 shot that the issue is fixed.
50-50 is generous.
Yeah.
More than 50% chance. Somehow, I think they don't have a mechanism to transfer information to a computer. They have to type the name and the date of birth.
Yeah.
And the guys that they do the corrections on these I-94 and EADs, they just got hired in, and they do mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
But clear USCIS error is a reason to expedite your request. You have to articulate that.
Usually that though stems from a prior case that went wrong, though. Something went wrong in the past. It's hard to do that on a fresh case, which
So that's the law.
I have a beef about USCIS error, Sam. Again, this applies to EADs right now. They allow you to file one 6 months out, and how long does it take to get an EAD approved? It's like 11 to 14 months right now. I call that a USCIS error. I call that a fundamental error in the way they're doing business.
So you're guaranteed to lose your job every time.
Yeah, drives me mad. Drives me mad. I have too many conversations with people, and I have to quote those numbers to them, and it just stinks.
Yeah.
So procedure.
Yes, we talked about the law.
Yeah.
And there's no appeal to the decision.
The policy, Sam. It's policy.
There's no appeal to the policy.
Yeah.
And also there's no explanation if they reject your request. They didn't issue a written explanation because they say they want to process as many as possible. And there's no filing fee, but there is a number to track a request.
Yeah.
Okay. So procedure.
So how do you do it?
Yep.
Weird for the government, because I like, creating records, whatever, every time I do thing, I like to be able to really vet my argument on paper. You do it over the phone with them.
It blows me away. That blows me away.
Yeah. I mean, we're attorneys. We like to create records, and I guess you get a reference
why do you
number.
think that's the reason? Is it slowed down?
I don't know, because ultimately, I mean, we're going to get to this. What you tell them on the phone is translated. They type it into a web form that has like a limited number of characters, and then they send it off to somebody to make a decision on it. So I can't imagine why. I would love to complete that form myself. They figure that
if they control it by the number of phone, there are so many phone calls you can make in a given one day on a telephone line as opposed to.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to make a phone call.
So yeah, how does it work if you wanted to try it? You call USCIS at their 1-800 number, and they have this ridiculous voice-activated system. And one way to get through it is say, "I like to make a request for expedited processing."
And all of you guys have dialed that number. I love it when you mess with the keyboard. It says, "If you don't tell me what you want, I'm going to hang up." It says that.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Well, and people always talk about, no matter what because the USCIS phone system's terrible right now, but there's a expedited processing is one of those magic phrases where it'll get you through to somebody pretty quickly. Yeah. And clearly their system's not great because they say something along the lines of, I can't remember exactly, "We'll help you schedule your appointment." And I just say, "Oh." But then as soon as they get somebody on the phone, they're happy to take my expedited processing request. So.
And the wait time this morning, when I checked on it was 60 minutes this morning.
Yeah, and typically the morning's where it's supposed to be best. Monday morning, it's maybe the wild card there, but I also tried it about a week or two ago. Tuesday afternoon, 60 minutes.
60 minutes.
60 minutes. So
I don't know. Friday, maybe in the afternoon might be a best time.
Who knows?
Yes. So you make a phone call. It's an 800 number. You tell them expedite processing. You go into a long wait, and then somebody comes on the phone, and then they go through the questions. They ask you, "What do you need?"
Well, yeah, they basics. What do you have to have in front of you? You have to have your receipt notice, and you have to have all your good personal information in your head because they'll usually make sure you verify who you are. Like, hey, what's your address and what's your date of birth?
You just point something very important. You must have a receipt notice.
Yeah.
Without a receipt notice number, you cannot do an expedite request.
Without it. Not clueless, they're just helpless without it, really.
Yeah, they cannot expedite. So if it's lost, and if there's a clear USCIS error that the document was lost, you're not going to be able to do an expedite request.
Yeah. So substantively, if I want to, there's two things I like to have in front of me when I'm going to do an expedite request with USCIS. I'm going to have more or less what I would call a script for that request, and I'm going to have a set of documents.
And pay attention because we're getting into the know-how to do this successful.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, when you've given all the basic information, the officer asks, "Okay, well, you'd like to make an expedited processing request? I can help you do that. What would you like to tell me?" And, on the other end, you're going to hear them clacking on a keyboard, and I know they have fields they can put this into, and they only have so much space. So what do you do in that scenario? You know what you're going to say beforehand to make it very easy on them because you want to leave them happy. You want them to write this thing favorably for you. And that's really your number one thing.
So to kind of reiterate,
Sure.
What is the number one thing? If you're doing an expedited request and you're calling, the reason for the expedited request you have to write it down.
Yeah.
And you have to be concise. It cannot be 2 pages, and you're not going to operate from memory. Well, I'm expedited request because of this. Well, I got all my documents. I can put it together. Now, type in, "Good afternoon, officer. My name is, my tracking number is, and I'm requesting an expedited request of my application, whatever the
That's
form,
literally what I do.
I-765 EAD document for me," because you got to write it down. And then very concisely, in the least amount of space, but without losing substance, write the reason why you are making the request and why you qualify. You go in and you say, it is for a severe financial loss. So you have to use that word. So they have to go and check their box, what criteria, clearly.
Now, my other thing is you got to have your documents prepared beforehand. You can't put in an expedite request and then it's preview. They allow you to submit documents in support of one. You can't go get those things after the fact. My number one reason is, the documents you have, they sort of form the script of what you're going to say. Your best argument is based upon your documents, and not knowing what your documents are going to look like, you're walking into there blind.
And once you get rejected, it's going to be very difficult. To go back and reignite. Obviously, there's a record.
Yeah.
So getting the documents, if you are relying on a nonprofit letter, you must have that nonprofit letter. Saying, "Yeah, I know I can get it," is not going to help you.
Yeah.
You're going to have it prepared in front of you.
Yeah.
If you're relying on a closing on a house, that was appraised now at $150,000 more, and you have a contract, but you need employment to be able to close on the deal, and that is causing a severe financial loss of $150,000. I would have the contract, I would have the appraisal before, the appraisal after, all the evidence sitting in front of me, organized and labeled Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3, Exhibit 4.
You know what? Also a great reason why to have those documents in front of you, because you want to be nice and truthful with the USCIS officer on the other end, and you're going to be telling them, I have a document to prove this, I have a document to prove this, I have a document to prove this.
And that's the second thing you do. You will tell them that in support of my request for expedited processing, officer, I have in my possession documentation that I can submit to you, and I can list them for you in summary.
Yeah. And so, well, there you go. I mean, that's really, you can be concise, have your documents, tell them that you have the documents.
And what are they? What these documents are that you have in your possession?
Yeah. So, and you'll go through this process with them, and they'll listen to you, make your speech, go through your script, and the number one tip my number one tip is, at the end of this thing, make them read back what they're going to submit, because they're going to push.
That's a big one.
They are going to push a button on this thing and submit it to you, and you have to. Don't trust. I mean, they're nice people on the other end, and honestly, I've never encountered a mean or nasty person while making an expedite request. They really are nice people, but they are human beings, and they are working at this job. Is what they're doing all day. It's your responsibility to make sure they put it in. They're gonna do the best they can, but you know your facts better than anybody else.
Yes. So you are going to tell the officer, respectfully, officer, can you please read back what you put in for my request, if you don't mind?
Yeah. That's the big one. That's huge.
Because you'll find things a lot of times say, no, your officer, I really meant this. Can you please modify this?
And they're nice, and I mean, I just try to be as sweet as I can be. I'm just trying to do the absolute best I can for my client, making sure I'm 100% honest, because I don't know. I want to make sure that we give an honest request to the person on the other end who reads this. So, and they're usually happy to do it. And they probably won't be nearly as detailed as you want to be. But maybe you shouldn't be incredibly detailed. You got to be a little bit concise.
How often do they request these documents?
I would wish they would do it every time. I'd say, well, what can they do after? You get off the phone with USCIS. They'll give you a reference number for this expedite request,
and you need to write that down.
Yeah. And what can they do? The answer is they can deny your expedite request outright. I guess I highly doubt they can approve it without requesting documents, or they can request some documents from you. And that's really your opportunity to shine. If you've made it that far,
you have a good chance.
Yeah.
I mean, there are probably very few instances where I just crazy stuff that you could be approved on the spot without documentation, but it's a rare.
Yeah. So, I mean, and if it gets, for the record, they say it takes they usually tell me about 7 days, but I'm seeing those timeframes go up recently because, well, what we've been talking about the entire time, there's so many people out there who want their cases to move faster,
So with an expedited request, the thing that you and I were talking about right before we start presenting is, if your situation is similar to everybody else, and the hardship is bad, but let's assume there was a tornado and wiped out half a city's houses, and now you request an expedited request because of severe financial loss for whatever reason. The fact that a large number of people are affected can probably takes down the urgency. Now, if your situation is unique and is different than everybody else, then you can certainly have a better chance. Now, because we're in a pandemic and there is a lot of people out of jobs, a lot of people looking for a job, a lot of people are needing to travel for urgent situations, especially in India. A lot of family members were hurt. Unfortunately, they're less urgent to them. They're overwhelmed.
As I said earlier, they're human beings on the other end, and they say, well, this is the the fourth, my relative is sick. Only human, I guess you can get desensitized to that,
Yes.
that sort of thing,
Yes, yes.
So we talked about the 5 criteria.
Yes.
We talked about what is, we talked about how to actually do it. And I suppose, Sam, we should touch upon the other items,
Okay.
the other things you can do, the other things you might try to do to try to push your case along.
So the congressman approach.
The congressman approach.
So I happened to practice law, not in this office, but in a prior office in which the congressperson was down the hallway from my office. So I got to understand the inside of the operation at the congressional level, because I got to know the people on the inside. They're just our neighbors. And they basically have what is a paralegal in the office, a wonderful person who is very sympathetic, that will do the intake. It is not much different than the paralegals we have in my office. And there is a congressional liaison at USCIS, and there are several of them, as a matter of fact, that they will take the information and then look at the facts. But very little do they advocate. That is not an office for advocacy, meaning that if the case is denied, then they will say, can you please explain to me why it's denied? And then they write down the reason why it's denied, and then they relay to the constituent. So, but they don't get into an argument with USCIS and say, well, that should not have been denied. Perhaps they can go back to them and you can give them an explanation, and then they can contact them again and say, well, my constituent is saying ABC, can you please look into it? And they will say, yes, we've looked into it. Unfortunately, we don't agree. And that's it. That's what they can do. Where they're most helpful is if there's a case is lost, they will look for it and confirm that the case is not lost and it's at a desk, will be looked at. If the case is substantially delayed, they can probably get it going, but they're not going to advocate severe financial loss. They're not going to advocate your personal situation on the level that an attorney does, because they're really not equipped to do that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's represented by a congressperson, and they're always very happy to hear from us. The bottom line is they're not a magic bullet. They can't really they can't put their thumb on the scale in your favor. That's just not how congresspeople in the United States work.
Right.
They can, you give them a case that's a normal processing time, they'll say, oh, what's your compelling criteria? I'm happy to look in this. And they treat it like an expedited processing request. Right. So it's really.
But it is not something that you should not try, because sometimes it does work. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, it's your life. And what the big question, Sam, is people always ask me is, hey, if I do this, are they going to come after me? Are they going to get angry at me?
Yes, that's the biggest question that I hear for the last 2 years, and we can talk about that probably a whole day. Yeah. But go ahead. Yes, it's an excellent point to bring up.
No, they're not going to get mad. You're asserting your rights. You're allowed to do that here in the United States.
That's not how the government functions.
Yeah.
The government does not function in retaliation. That's not how business is done in the U.S.
Yeah.
You're good news, bad news, I guess. You're a file.
Yeah.
You're a case.
That's why you can't get it. You can't talk to your friend, the congressman, and get him to move the case fast, because that's just not how it works.
Yes.
They'll say, well, thanks for your inquiry, and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, briefly touch on litigation. It is possible, if the government is really not doing their job, to sue the government to make them act on a case. At this point, a lot of the big popular topics right now, I-40, I-45, they're within USCIS's normally posted processing times, and it's a discretionary benefit anyway. It's not really the greatest option there. How about EADs, H-4 EADs?
Well, let's talk about litigation for a second.
Yeah, more?
Yeah, well, a little bit more for a second. So in 25 years dealing with USCIS, litigation goes through waves. Every time there is a problem, we've had issues, and there was also delays in naturalization for a while, and there were delays in other processes for a while. And then when you start the litigation path, there is an initial response and very positive results. And then when the litigation reaches a certain mass, then the government says, okay, we got to litigate these, and then you get less results.
Well, what does that mean practically? It means, when people start to, historically, when people started litigating things, every time you file a lawsuit against the government, there's a government lawyer on the other end who says, I have two options. I can just make them approve this case. I can make them take action on this case, or I can defend this lawsuit. And one of those options is very easy. But sooner or later, you're right. Somebody comes down from the top and says, we can't just, roll over on this, and you start defending these cases. And then suddenly your litigation doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't work in the speed you want it.
Yeah.
Trust me, I am a strong advocate, and we don't like to brag about litigation and the accomplishment we've made throughout the years in litigation, because we have been very much involved in litigation. I'm admitted to multiple federal courts and the U.S. Supreme Court also, and we have filed cases in Ohio and in Michigan and in many states. And litigation is important. We got, as a immigrant community, we got to litigate always. Why? Because that's how you keep an agency in check. And I'm not saying USCIS is a bad agency. There's many years that US has done a great job. Many other years they've done a lousy job. But the litigation has to always go hand in hand with processing to make sure that our process is protected. Now we're at a time where the administration is leaning forward in a positive way, but there is such chaos and there's such bad taste from a prior administration that has not been as sensitive, and litigation must continue. But right now, these cases are taking longer.
Yeah,
that's a reality.
Yeah, the big results in terms of litigation is the H-1B stuff in the last couple of years. It used to be incredibly painful up until about mid-2020 to get an H-1B approved, and things are a lot better now. And that's because people started suing the government and started questioning their policies, and they reversed a whole lot of nasty stuff.
Yes. And we want to move on and talk about other things because it's 6:37 and we want to give people a chance to ask questions if we have any. But there's a couple of things we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Good news, bad news.
Good news, bad news.
Of the week.
Yeah. What's the good news, Sam?
Well, good news is that the medical exam now is extended from validity period from 2 years to 4 years. And this is about time. But this is a crazy thing. They just go ahead and just double the time.
Sam, you want to hear my bad news?
All right.
My bad news is they're doubling the validity of the medical exams for 4 years. What does that mean? Does that mean these cases are going to be in process for 4 years?
That's what you're worried about.
That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that they're looking down the road and thinking their cases are going to be out there.
If a medical form is good for 4 years, why in the heck it was for 2 years for the last 20 years? It's been as short as like 1 year, and as I recall, and the strangest time in the middle of a pandemic is when you increase the. Well, they're overwhelmed. I think they're finding ways to relieve. I mean, that means less. I mean, I'm the positive. Brian is, I guess, the other side.
I am the bad news on this one. Yeah,
you're the bad news on less RFEs, less expense. I think more approvals.
Well, more approvals I do agree with, because we know that they are trying to, we thought maybe they were, and they're actually trying to approve cases before, avoid the visa wages issue, get cases approved before the end of September, so those visas can go to people who will utilize them instead of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What's another piece of good news, bad news of the week? Visa Bulletin is out. I'm not sure whether it's good news, bad news. What do you think the dates are? Some movement, not a great movement, but
Well, yeah. I mean, we expect the big move, any sort of big movement, to be in October. That's when the great big new dump of visas becomes available.
We're going to probably talk more about it next week.
Yeah,
we're going to have to, because we're preparing for the October Visa Bulletin. But looking at prediction, do you have the dates to show? Any dates?
Yeah, so we're going to bring up the final action dates for the September Visa Bulletin. There they are.
Okay, sounds good. So in September, the Visa Bulletin has moved let's talk about India, since India is really the big one.
Yeah.
I mean, China has moved as well, but they're not as backed up
We
severely.
have got the dates for filing available here as well, so we can look at them both. Yeah.
Yes. So the movement for India, EB2, dates for filing is none. No movement.
Womp womp.
Yeah. But it's not significant. It doesn't matter.
Oh, nobody's using. I mean, we don't know for sure. They haven't published yet, but they're probably not going to go by dates for filing.
So the movement from
anyway.
August to September is unchanged.
Yeah.
The final action date moved 3 months.
Not
so
too shabby.
Opened up for 3 months. So it was 6-1. So it's 9-1. So they've opened up more cases to file, and this is a forward movement at the end of the year, which is unheard of, right?
Yeah. He's worried about retrogression. He doesn't want to do anything, but he's so confident the EB2.
But he moved some. I mean, that's pretty crazy,
Darn
right?
it, Sam. I believe that EB2 it has to keep on moving forward like that,
Right.
because.
So you're projecting September 1st. You're now your projection is a 1 full year movement in final action date.
Well, okay. I guess
Well,
so.
it could be.
I guess.
You and I in agreement.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you and I in agreement. We think it's going to be 9/1/2020.
If they're approving these downgraded I-140s / adjustments, and we saw last week in our net data we had up, how big was the backlog, Sam?
560,000.
560,000 in
In
the EB2 category.
So India only.
As they approve the India only. As they approve the downgrades, that means they essentially slow down the EB3 category and speed up the EB2 category. Those dates, that has to be reflected somewhere.
Right, and you're assuming a date for filings for Brian. You're saying May 1st, 2013. Do you have those? Do you have that chart anywhere to show?
I don't think I have that easily available.
Okay.
Wait. The dates for filing for August?
I think. Did I give you a chart to? Was there?
Oh yeah, our version of this. Yeah, there we are.
Here you go. So here's Sam and Brian.
Yeah.
So your projection for October 2020 is May 1st, and mine is March 1st, 2013. Very close to each other.
Yeah.
And right now the visa bulletin is showing December 1st. So that is,
That's a pretty big. Geez, we're making some big predictions here. That's a pretty big jump, huh?
It's a big jump, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then for EB3 India, the September visa bulletin is March 1st, 2014.
Yeah.
And it is only a 30-day movement from August. It moved only 30 days. It was February 1st to March 1st. So in the dates for filing, they took more cases. I mean, they said, we can't. But this date for filing means nothing. Nobody's going to apply on the date for filing.
Yeah.
What's a big one is the final action date, and that moved from July 1st, 2013 to January 1st, 2014. That's significant.
Yeah, 5 months. Yeah, 5 months.
Yeah, that's a 5 months movement. Thus, having a window for the month of September between the date for filings and the final action date of 59 days, 2 months, 60 days only, which is usually they narrow that date, which is, to be expected. And that is the EB2 India. Now, your projection, Brian, you said is going to be October 1st, 2015 for EB3 India, and I said June. I was more conservative. So I'm looking at what's it now. It's March 2014. I'm believing that
Wow, yeah, that's
mine may be better than yours.
Well, what really drives me, and we don't have them up here, is basically where the final action dates, where the dates for filing were in October 2020, which you can see in the far right there. It was the 1st of January 2015. They thought they could get there within this year, and obviously they haven't, considering the final action dates haven't made it that far.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another big visa dump, coming in October means they should be able to get beyond that. That's my theory of it all.
Yeah, I think maybe your numbers may be more right, because honestly, they just want to allow for as many filings as possible. But the question is, do they overwhelm USCIS on day one, or do they stage it?
Well,
if they're going to say, we're going to waste these visas anyways, these visas are gone, So, but why dump? Let's go ahead and release it timely, so allow USCIS to be able to handle that workload.
Yeah, I mean, USCIS did not handle the workload well in October 2020, meaning
Oh, it was a disaster.
It took people till January to get receipt notices, some of them, and beyond, really.
Yeah. Well, sounds good. So if there are any questions, we'll take them.
Oh, I bet there's questions, Sam.
All right. All right. So will ongoing issues in Afghanistan impact next spillover numbers of appointment? No.
No.
They're unrelated whatsoever.
It's real sad what's going on.
It
there,
is
but-
horrible. Yeah. I mean, today was shocking. I was reading the news. But I tell you what, this country is in for a major adjustments. I mean, have you seen some of those videos? I didn't watch TV, but I watched some videos, in the airport, the chaos in the airport.
Yeah, that's
pretty shocking.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely yeah.
Yep, it should not affect it.
Yeah.
My priority date, EB2, is December 2013, India.
Mhm.
Okay. My company not downgraded to EB3. Can I expect date of filing in EB2 in October? December 2013? We don't believe so, at least on our projection, that the date of filing is going to reach December 2013. Brian is expecting it May 1st, and I'm expecting it March 1st. So very sorry, at least on our prediction. I hope we're wrong and you can get the date that you want, but that's not what we're predicting, at least. But Charlie Oppenheim is having a session in a couple
I
days.
believe it's on Thursday. Yeah.
We're going to listen to it carefully. Probably next week, we're going to bring you a summary of what he talked about through our interpretation and break it down to strip down the legalese and give you kind of the bottom line. And hopefully he will give us some
Yeah,
good
I
news.
will note that these things are open to the public. If you go to our YouTube page, we have a link to the Department of State's YouTube account, and
All those guys know exactly how to get to it, Brian.
not everybody maybe does. I don't know. The last question. This last person had one question though. It's can I move
to a new company?
Another company. So. Another company to file EB3, that company has to go through the labor certification 9140 process for you. So that's the challenge there, and that takes a year effectively at this point just to get it perm approved.
Yeah, I mean, with the delays and so forth, and then you can get I-140 approved.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure you can squeeze it in within this visa dump that they're going to put in. So, sorry about that. I submitted my I-45 ROW to TCS on November 15, 2020. Okay. Biometrics done. January 21. I'm fully approved. Wonderful. Medical interfile. Okay. Can I expect to receive my green card at the end of the year? Did you give us your priority date?
Yeah, that is a critical. I don't see it here. So that is a critical piece of information when your priority date is.
Right. So, Callian, throw in your priority date, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Going to keep on moving on from Samir. So, can I use the I-45 EAD to renew my driver's license if my H-1B extension is pending? Will it impact on my H-1B status?
I love this question, and those are excellent questions from Samir. Obviously, you can definitely use whatever document you have, including the EAD document, to get a driver's license. It does not affect.
Yeah, it's really showing off that you have it. But I mean, I think maybe the concern is abandoning your H-1B status.
There's no.
Yeah.
I think
that's what the concern is. But
but that's an excellent question.
Yeah, it's a great one.
0% of negative impact on your H-1B.
Well, keep this in mind, though. I get a lot of questions about H-1Bs and driver's licenses. Most states will allow you to use a receipt notice for an H-1B to get an extended driver's license beyond your I-94 validity.
Let's assume that you get a DMV person with enough intelligence to help.
Oh, see, speaking of topics where, I could spend a half-hour presentation on that, is how to get your driver's license.
Another great topic, driver's license issues. Oh, wow, I love that topic. We might talk about it. Write that down. But next to where I live, there is a DMV office run by an amazing Indian lady. She's the manager there. And man, I send all my clients to her. She's incredible.
Well, no, somebody who has maybe been through an immigration process and is sympathetic and is perfectly willing to look up what documents are
intelligent
required.
And capable. Yeah. All right. What's the difference between date of filing and final action date? That is a great.
I think this person might be a plant because that's the kind. I mean, I love explaining like the basics.
Okay. So explain it, Brian.
Okay. Dates for filing are. Let's start with final action dates. Sorry. Final action dates are when the government has a green card, an immigrant visa available for you. When your final action date is current, that's when they can approve your green card and put a green card in your hand.
Can I add to it?
Yes.
Okay. So when you think about the final action date, that's the date we've lived by. There was no such thing as date for filing until you estimate it to be 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
So for decades and decades since the visa bulletin was published, there was only one date, and it is the final action date. And that date was based on the calculations when the government can in fact do this and hand you a green card.
Yeah. When the backlog would be clear enough such that your time was that.
So that is the final action date. Now, the date for filing is a creation of the State Department by policy.
They said, okay, well, we're having people file their adjustment of status cases or file their immigrant visa green card application through the consulate when their final action date's available, when the date we actually have a green card ready. That's inefficient. Why not have them file before, such that by the time we're done processing their case, the day we're done processing, we're eligible to give them the green card. So essentially, the dates for filing is a 6 to 8 to 12. It sometimes varies what they say. Outlook upon the dates they think that will become current in the future. So basically, if your dates for filing comes up, it means they think they're going to have a green card for you in the next year or so.
Yes. Yeah. So the best analogy I make it is if you are going to show up in a meeting at exactly 8 o'clock in the morning. If you're waking up at 8 o'clock, you're going to be late for the meeting. Yeah. So they said it's almost like an alarm a year before, or for you, maybe if you need an hour to get ready, an hour before, so you can wake up, take a shower, shave, have coffee, have breakfast, get in the car, drive, and then you arrive. So the date for filing is the wake up early, get ready for the green card, because 6-7 months from now we have this number that's going to be available. So when the final action date arrives, you filed your application, you paid your fees, they reviewed all your documents, and the ideal scenario on that day.
TikTok. There's two races going on. There's guy processing your case, and there's the availability of visas, and exact same time.
You come at the same time, and you get your green card.
Yay.
So that was the idea.
Yeah.
Now, a layer of complication, right? USCIS did not want to play the game.
Yeah.
They said, I'm not playing. You can create that date for filing. That's not required by law because that's more work for me. I have to now prepare cases early, and I'm not in the mood to do that. So I'm not following these rules. And they publish their own dates.
Embedded in the visa bulletin, if you do a Google search, visa bulletin September 2021, right below either the final, I think it's right below the dates for filing, they say, oh, but maybe USCIS won't honor these. Check this website from USCIS where they publish what dates they're going to abide by any given month. And what do we know about the dates for filing? October is really the time when you're most likely to see them abide by dates for filing.
Yeah. So USCIS abide by the old traditional final action date, which is when the visa number is in fact available legally. Do they accept your application? With one exception, is around October. And why is October? October is the beginning of the federal government fiscal year. So that's when there's a new set of 140,000 green cards available, not counting the additional dump from the result of the pandemic. On that day, on October 1st, there's all these visas. So the USCIS says, we're going to go with this more generous date, which is the earlier date that opens up more application, which is the date for filing.
I can't help but mention the Department of State always honors their dates for filing, which means if your priority date's current or did come out dates for filing, you're outside the United States, they'll invite you to, begin the green card processing from abroad. But not exactly a good idea to try to take advantage of that.
Well, you're working here in the U.S.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But you could. It's frowned upon, but it is not illegal, and it's perfectly legal to pursue a consular processing and adjustment status at the same time.
Yeah, pretty rare, but yeah.
They don't like it, but you can pursue because it's a waste of time for them. But you can certainly pursue both of them. And if the consular processing, of course, we have a pandemic now, it doesn't work. It comes in first. You can fly out of the country, interview, get your green card, fly back in, and withdraw your I-45. All right. What is October prediction for EB3 India date for filing? Well, our prediction.
Yeah.
It's right there on the screen.
Here,
Show them the screen.
Let me flip over here real quick.
Yeah.
Ding.
All right. So EB3 final action date, which is the second table.
Oh, yeah, I think it said dates for filing, no?
Well, we'll talk about both. I remember EB3, so we'll talk about both of them. So Brian thinks that final action date is going to be on May 1st, 2015. Mine is a lot more conservative. Mine is 6/1/2014. Right now, they are for January 1st, 2014. I'd say maybe Brian is going to be, maybe he's going to be in the middle somewhere, but it's going to be more than 6/1/2014 now because I'm looking at the September visa. But my prediction is July 1st, 2014. Brian is May 1st, 2015 for final action. On the filing day, on date for filings, Brian is October 1st, 2015, and mine is June 1st, 2015. And looking at March 1st,
we've heard from Charles Oppenheim in the Department of State that EB3 he's told us there's basically an outside chance that it could reach October 2016, but unlikely. So basically, that's kind of informed.
And we're going to update next week.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here, and we're going to stay a little longer to answer questions.
Yes, of course. Let me come back to us here and move on to the next question.
Well, the ongoing issue, we answered that one.
Yes. Oh, do we scroll back to the top somehow? No problem. Or maybe not. No, I think that's just the maybe a repeat.
Would you recommend filing for DV lottery while being in the U.S. on an F1 visa? I have no problem with that. You can apply for diversity lottery while in the U.S. on an F1 visa. I'm not concerned whatsoever. Will my F1 visa be terminated? Well, no, because number one, the lottery, no, it will not be terminated. The lottery is a lottery. It is absolutely not something that is, hundreds of thousands of people apply.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no concern with that. And if you're selected in the lottery, then seek counsel.
Yeah.
Immediately. Great news, but seek counsel. But no, I wouldn't worry about it. I would absolutely apply.
Yeah. To fill the blank is problem. F1 students have an issue with immigrant intent. They're not allowed to have intent to immigrate to the United States. And that's why I would raise that question.
Yeah, but applying for diversity lottery, and to my opinion, just applying for diversity lottery is not an immigrant intent.
So next question. So my priority date EB2 is March 2021. I-140 March 2021. Okay, so
yes.
I-140 filed in premium. Is it okay to change employers in 6 months based on moving dates? So.
Well, first of all, we don't give advice. We would tell you what we would do. Don't change employer based on our advice because there's so much to these moving parts that requires good care.
There's a broad rule though. If your employer withdraws that I-140 within 6 months of its approval, that I-140 is totally dead, and that kind of it really has to inform your choices of changing employers. But
there's more to that. Yeah. So my priority is EB 2021, March 20. So this is recent.
Yeah, very recent priority. Yeah. I think it's really it's really a question of what happens to my I-140 when I leave in it.
Right. So there's a lot of issues. I mean, obviously, there's a blog that we've had, and we've had a presentation on it. If you go back and review our older presentation, there's about
It's called Change of Employment with Green Card in Process.
Change of employment with green card in process. There is about 11 or 12 different scenarios through the lifetime of a green card application. And there's a blog with a chart on our website. I don't think I've seen that blog anywhere. I mean, this is really a nice.
It's a fun one. I remember. Yeah.
We had fun working on it, and it will give you every stage in what are the upside and the downside from changing employer at what green card stage. In your stage, all depends on your objective. You want to only retain your priority date, or do you have an extension beyond 6-year problem? What do you have? And based on that, you should be able to make better decisions.
Yeah.
All right. Take the next one.
Keep on going. Okay. EB2 India, priority date April 2015. If I were to file a new I-140 and EB3 now, would that be eligible for a faster perm process than than filing concurrently when the dates are current? So you're talking about a downgrade scenario, it sounds like. Well,
I'm trying to read it carefully. Go ahead, Brian, whether or not that's a downgrade question. Because if we're filing a new I-140, not an I-140 downgrade, well, I'm assuming new I-140 is an I-140 downgrade.
Yeah.
Would it be eligible for faster perm processing? I think perm processing.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about starting, there's no way to
concurrently when dates are current. No. Well, number one, I need to know a little bit more. Why would you file? Maybe it's a new employer situation.
Yeah, so that's why you needed a new perm. And that scenario is, unfortunately, perm's probably slower right now than it was when you last.
It's not going to get done within 1 year. Yeah. And it's the fiscal year. I mean, it's a 1 year and 2 months before the 150,000 green cards are shut down.
Yeah.
So it's very, very tight. You can try, but your priority is 2015.
So do we think that's going to become current?
EB2,
that's not going to come current.
Yeah. And it looks like maybe his employer does not want to downgrade for him, because we think that it's going to hit 2015 for EB3, but not EB2. Yeah.
Going to keep on going. So I-140 downgrade is still pending.
Mm-hmm.
Priority date is February 2014. Tried premium was denied. What can we do?
Try again.
Yeah, your premium processing was not denied. Somebody just said, no, thank you, I'm full. So it seems like once a week I get to do my little speech on this subject, Sam. I'm going to do it right now.
Do it.
So in order to do premium processing on an I-140 case, USCIS has to have your original labor certification. So your priority back in 2014, when USCIS approved your perm, they sent your employer or your employer's attorney an original official labor certification on blue security paper. Great. In order for USCIS to process your downgrade right now, they have to go back into their files or contact the Department of Labor to get a copy of that original labor certification, and that takes time. If by the time they got your premium processing request, they have not completed that process, they will send your premium processing request back to whoever filed it and say, okay, well, we're working on that. We're working on getting it. Try again in 30 days. And coming back to Sam's much more concise answer, what do? You resend it in 30 days.
Yeah, file again. No problem.
Yeah, you can't really do much but wait, but eventually they will take it.
And then prior to February 2014, I think the frustration is that the final action date for EB3 right now is January 1st, 2014. So he feels the heat that it's getting closer. He wants the I-140 approved because we want that green card. But with the 100,000 wastage this year and similar number next year, it may be a long time, unfortunately.
Gonna keep on going.
My priority date is March 31st, 2015 in the EB2. Okay. My new employer is now starting my green card process and suggested to file under EB2 as a downgrade is possible to EB3. That's smart.
Yeah.
The retrogress might happen, but I'm leaning EB3 now.
So Sam, explain the magic of the EB2 labor certifications. I feel like I explain this one pretty often too.
So when you file an EB2, you have the option to go with EB2 or EB3. when you file in EB3, you do not have the option going to EB2. I know everybody's loving EB3 right now, but you don't know what's going to happen. Year 2015, priority date, and it's coming close, I guess. You can get a labor certification approved, and you can file the I-140 in EB3 right away.
Yeah.
But if later on EB2 becomes attractive, you can file the I-140 in EB2, new I-140 in EB2, and upgrade.
Yeah.
So if you're worried about time wasted in filing two I-140s, you don't have to go to EB2 I-140. So if the labor certification requires a bachelor's and 5 years of experience, or a master's degree and some experience.
An EB2 labor certification, yeah.
And that means it's called an EB2 labor certification. Yeah. But that's an labor certification that allows for multiple, either an EB2 or an EB3 I-140. So if you go in that route, provided the job requirement meets the higher standards, then I would definitely go in that direction.
Yeah, there's nothing in the labor certification that commits you to EB2 or EB3. It's just a job. Yes. And meaning the magic of the EB2 is every EB2 job will qualify you for EB3. So why not file EB2 and have your option to file EB2 or EB3?
Yes, so the labor certification has to require, and I'm assuming you are at the higher level of employment, which is the exceptional ability alien, master's degree or bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience. Then you have the option to go either way. All right.
I think that's a repeat there. What are the chances of EB3 date of filing will reach May 2015?
EB3 date of filing reaching 2015, we both believe it is possible based on our projections.
Yeah.
So Brian projected October 1st, 2015. I projected June 1st, 2015 for EB3 India.
Pretty good chance, I guess.
So we believe it is possible. We will see soon.
Yeah, we will see soon. I guess about a month, right?
Yeah.
You know, Sam, when do you think that September visa bulletin's coming out?
That's a good question. I think it's going to come out early.
I don't think so. I think, remember last year it came out like the end of the month.
Yeah, but that's different.
I think it's entirely the same. I think this year's even more stressful.
No, it's not. It's all figured out already. How early this month visa bulletin?
Pretty early. It was what, last Thursday or Friday?
Very early. Next month is going to be very early.
Here, I'm going to make my case. So USCIS, we know they're trying to push as many approvals out the door as they can, right? And the more those approvals will impact the visa bulletin, right? And Charles Oppenheim is wondering, those will impact the visa bulletin and impact who can file. And the better information, the more cases approved, the better his estimates on the October visa bulletin will be. I predicted a late September visa bulletin.
The reason I disagree with you is because the State Department, not only do they have October month as an opportunity to release date, they have the following months and the month after. They don't have to wait a week or two to get the most accurate information.
Well, he did say there would be no major movements in the first quarter of fiscal year 2022. So that's a compelling point.
And that's if we are going to be looking at these dates, and maybe let's go back and switch those dates for everybody to see it.
Bing.
If he's saying we're not making major movements, and we are now in these dates for September, that's sad. Mm-hmm. And I think I win.
I think.
How much are we bidding? 25 cents?
No, I didn't want you to bring up the. Yeah. No. Well, the point is, back in a couple later this week, Charles Oppenheim's going to have his presentation, and well, that's one thing. And we're going to be back here next week, and we're going to be talking about it, about all the implications and results of it.
7:09. So we take one or two more.
Oh yeah, I got some more in me for sure.
Sure.
We haven't even hit the end of the hour in terms of where the questions came in. So this well, no, this guy Callion here's got a question. So yeah, this is the question he asked before. He said his priority date is current.
I don't remember the question. Now, do you?
I submitted my I-45 ROW to TSC November 15, 2020. Biometrics done. I-140 approved. Medicals interfiled. Can I expect to receive my green card at the end of the year?
Priority date is current.
They are trying.
November 2000. Let's see what's priority date is current.
Current.
But what is it?
Well, the older the better, but it's current.
That's why
Yeah.
it's helpful.
So if your priority date's current, they're in theory able to approve it right now. The only thing you're fighting with is the massive backlog they're dealing with in terms of.
But I'm assuming they're going to take the older priority dates.
They're
going to have to, right?
In the name of fairness, yes.
So if your priority date is right there, flipped to current right now, recently, you're less likely than a priority date that's older.
Yeah. What do we got next?
I'd like to look at our approval priority dates. Maybe we can report back to the team next week.
I have been.
I have not been looking at the dates necessarily. How the trend is.
I've been seeing it all over the place, honestly. I mean, I've been looking in that much detail though. So
Okay.
I just
We'll look at it
anecdotally.
Okay.
So go ahead, Sam.
When do you expect to see a lot of downgrade from EB2 to EB3 to be processed under regular processing? It's close to 10 months since we filed for adjustment status. Yeah, I mean, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
It's a slow dance right now. It is not something that's happening quickly on any level. Nobody. I mean, I do not know, unfortunately, how to answer that question because it is depressing.
Yeah.
When they're going to see, we're seeing some, but very few.
They're trickling in. I am, I open the mail on a lot of days, and I do see I-140 approvals come in, but obviously not at the
not in the
volume I'd like. I like them all approved, and I like them to start sending those medicals RFEs and just getting these things approved.
Yep. What are the chances of a scale of 10 EB3 final action date reach May 2015?
Well, somebody just asked that 1st of May 2015, and we said both predicted.
Our scale is 10.
Yeah.
Our scale is 10, but what's going to happen, we don't know. So
maybe,
more likely than not.
We'll get an update from Charles later this week, but it'll be a case of we think. I may have clicked on another question.
I was looking at revising again because it's a 1.5-year movement, right?
Yeah.
It's a 1.5-year movement, and what blows me away, he's saying that it's not a major movement in the first quarter.
Well, again, we don't know what he's thinking, but USCIS clearly got absolutely bombarded in October. Maybe he's doing his plan is to do what you're suggesting is try to spread those cases over the year, such that But that's lousy though, because I mean, the poor folks who get the file at the end of the year, there's no chance of them getting their case approved timely,
or getting green card. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's always in the back of my mind, Sam, is the end game of this. Eventually, the COVID he crosses his fingers. The COVID pandemic will, alleviate, and they'll have wasted these visas, and maybe they don't get used, and people. I mean, a lot of people will maybe have gotten to file for green cards.
The average number of adjustment that USCIS approve every year when they're healthy is 100,000.
Yeah.
I came across the data. I got to go back and find it. You're asking them to process 2.5 to 3 times that number
in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah. All right.
Got a couple more some easy ones.
When will one get a green card? EAD, advanced parole, and actual green card. Can you please help me understand? Okay, so the green card is on one path, the advanced parole and the EAD on another path. They are not in sequence.
Yeah.
They go like this, and you can get this one first. You can get this one first. It doesn't matter. Obviously, more than 90% plus of the times, you get the advanced parole and the EAD first. If the green card happen, which moves on a completely separate path, to come first, then they will just basically reject or deny the application because you're no longer qualified because you're a permanent resident. But there is not a sequence and there's no magic formula. It's about a bunch of people working on the green cards, a bunch of people working on advanced paroles and EADs, and you get one ahead of the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to maybe do one or two more here and get to the point. Yeah, it could kind of highlight a point. My priority date's February 2014. Got my EAD and AP. Have biometrics this week. You know, in terms of how quickly somebody's having biometrics, it sounds like you would have filed back in October. Just getting to biometrics now. Crazy.
Does that give you an idea?
It gives you an idea as to how much of a mess things are.
And they just need to waive the biometrics. And there's methodologies to say, you know, here's your green card, and they have the right to recall a green card 5 years into the green card approval. They can recall the green card.
Yeah.
They need to just go ahead and approve them. The paperwork is there, the filing fee is there, send the green cards, and you know what? Continue the medical background check and go through a revocation process.
Yeah.
It's really the way to go. I mean, it's a pandemic. Can you use a pandemic mentality to resolve things and move things along?
You know, well, vaccines, emergency approvals.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can you make perfect word? Emergency approval, yeah.
Emergency approval.
Emergency approval.
Yes. 100%. I think this is what we need. Push for an emergency approval. Guys, once you leave this channel, go to 100 different forums and request USCIS implement emergency adjustment of status approval.
Do you think they're going to do that, Sam?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
All right. My priority date is February 2014. Got my EAD and advanced parole. Have biometrics this week. Expecting my date to be current in October. Okay. My I-140 is not approved. We tried premium processing and denied. Looks like tried twice, at least 2 or 3 times. What else can I do?
They will get to your case eventually. You know,
you keep trying premium processing. There's no magic formula.
Yeah, it's as we said earlier. It's not denied. It's just they're waiting to get the labor certification from the Department of Labor or from their files.
And if you're current in October, you will be current probably for several months.
Yeah.
So there will be plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, your bigger challenge is really USCIS picking up your case.
Yeah.
You know?
And 2014. And you're saying that February 2014, clearly, because they're January 2014 right now, you will be current. But trust me, there's many other people who have been current for 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
And haven't gotten their
going mad.
Have been going the green card. So you're going to be joining the group of waiting, endless waiting for something to happen, which is going to be the most painful part of the process.
Yeah. On the bright side, you mentioned last week, USCIS has a new managing director.
New director.
Yeah, new director.
Yes. Mendoza Aboud, of a background, an immigrant from immigrant parents, lawyer and experienced administrator through the Obama administration. So that's wonderful. And a female, which is, I think, is an added plus.
Yeah, somebody who, in theory, might want to see some cases.
Well, we see immediate change already. She's definitely.
Well, we're hearing they're sending out text messages to people, letting them know they're going to get a medical, saying, "Hey, a medical RFE is coming. Get your medical exams now, so you can respond to your RFE as soon as possible."
Yeah.
And we're seeing the extended validity of medical exams.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next question.
Okay. Ding. So priority date EB3, April 2014, I-140 approved, 180 days, I-45 pending. Now career break, left my job. Will I definitely get an RFE or worse, NOID confirming a job offer?
Well, first of all, EB3 I-140 is approved, 180 days, I-45 pending. Now on a career break, left my job. The green card process is based on a job offer.
Yeah.
Without a job offer, your green card process is vulnerable. Now, USCIS historically have not denied cases for gap in employment, but they can do that. They can do that anytime. So I'm sorry to say this. I think you need to terminate your career break, and you need to get back and get a job. Yeah. And find a way to get a job that's same or similar, file Supplement J, and protect 7 years of work on that green card.
Yeah, that's exactly where my brain went. It's your case has been processing for 7 years. Now you've been working too hard, too long.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's same answer to this question. If I get an RFE, how much time can I expect? Don't wait for the RFE. How long can I take to get a job offer? I mean, generally RFEs they give you 87 days to respond. Don't wait for a
No, don't create a gap.
yeah.
And then also I would be, I mean, obviously the adjustment status is pending, so there's no unlawful presence. But you know, employment gap is
the whole green card process, employment-based green card, is premised upon having a permanent offer of permanent employment in the United States.
I mean, all what you need is to get one of those nasty reviewers who wants to break grounds and does something stupid, and now you're in appeal
it gives
grounds.
me anxiety just thinking about this scenario.
Now, you will get other attorneys telling you, no, there's no problem. Well, yes, there is no problem in most cases. I do believe, and it's my philosophy, is to fly every case under the radar, not above the radar. I don't want you to be spotted for anything unusual.
Yeah.
I want you to look like every other case that they've seen for weeks that they've approved.
They got out their approval stamp, and I just want you to be the next one in line.
And I don't want to get in a situation where we have to, work hard to convince anybody of anything.
I never want the government to say, interesting,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next one.
Okay. A good one. My priority date is September 2014. Any chance of getting current October 2021? So presuming yes, you're talking about EB2 eligible for down. It doesn't matter. EB2 can be downgraded. EB3 is. We think there's a pretty good chance of at least getting to dates for filing, right?
Final action dates for filing we think is going to hit 2015.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we're already in 2014 for final action dates for EB3.
It's a good chance. Yes.
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay. From Raj.
I have applied for renewal of my EAD advanced parole. All right. My current EAD advanced parole will expire in January. All right. 2022. And if I travel outside the country, well, my renewal AP gets denied. Emphatically, the answer is yes. Yeah. It will get denied. And if you're relying on your advanced parole, if your advanced parole is expired and you're outside the country, you better have an H-1B visa that's valid, because that, if you have an adjustment status, that's considered an abandonment for your adjustment status.
Yeah. And then you'll be doing that thing, consular processing of your immigrant visa, which...
well, he doesn't have to do the same thing. He can get back on an H-1B after getting a stamp and refile the adjustment status.
Well, you got to get a... Hey, Sam, is it easy to get an H-1B visa stamp right now?
Well, very painful process.
You have to, I mean, another one of those things where you could do an entire presentation on it's, there's, if anybody's not aware, and how could you not be, at least if you're from India, there's a travel ban in place for India right now, a quarantine. And it is really hard to get stamping. The consulates are closed.
Yes, absolutely.
For the most part.
We'll take one last one.
Okay. All right. Ding.
Brian, take it.
My priority date is February 2014. Got my EAD and AP. Have biometrics this week. Expecting final action date in October. Congratulations for you. I think we already did this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Premium precedents I don't get. Blah, blah, blah. A couple of. An excellent question. We touched about
how many hours you got. Filing and their filing request. How will I know that is accepted? Do we get any letter? Absolutely nothing. You get no information. And you can call the service center and find out, and they'll tell you very informally, but there's no process.
Yeah.
And that's why
one of our beefs with interfiling.
We do not like interfiling.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So this is a short question. We'll take one last one, Brian.
Okay. All right. I keep on coming with reasons to extend. I like taking questions. It's fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. EB2 and EB3 approved priority date May 31st, 2011. Ooh, that's really old. October 28th receipt dates. All are pending.
H-1B now.
H-1B now. Should we use EB3 I-140 or EB2? Oh, I mean to extend your H-1B. So this is questions about basically whether you can extend your H-1B when your priority dates current is. Aren't both those dates current for the purposes of final action dates?
Well, I'm looking at the dates right here. Well, we have final action date September 1st, 2011 for EB2, and they are May 2011. So they're current for EB2, and they're current for EB3.
Yes.
And therefore, you will not need to use either one. You cannot get 3-year H-1B
Yeah, it'll be based upon the perm filing.
So you'll be able to get 1 year
Yeah.
H-1B, and it doesn't matter because you probably have one labor certification.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully it was helpful today. Thank you so much. Well, next week, clearly we're going to talk about Visa Bulletin.
Okay, that's good noise that I wanted, but Visa, we're definitely talking about Visa Bulletin for
Yes.
yeah.
And maybe other stuff. So we will let you know. Thank you. Have a great day.